Good evening and welcome to Alan's Italy. Tonight we are going to be going to Lake Como. We started out in Venice, which of course is an idyllic town, a pretty big city, and then we went to Florence, which is also a big city, and then we went into southern Tuscany and to northern Lazio, to those small towns, those little hill towns. And tonight we're going to go to an area that I consider to be paradise, and you'll see why in just a few minutes. First, I would like to wait a minute. Okay. First, I'd like to say that I'd like to thank people who watch the show live and who have been watching the show when it's repeated a week later. A lot of people have been going to YouTube to see the shows whenever they feel like it, which has been great. So, you know, that's very gratifying, and I'd like to thank those people very much. You know, I was a teacher for 41 years, and although this resembles teaching in many ways, the one aspect of teaching that it doesn't resemble is that it's not interactive, in that you know, I've had a few questions of people who've called up, and that's, you know, for a teacher, that's fun, because it's always fun to answer questions that people pose, because it gives the teacher a chance to, you know, think on their feet, and it's just fun to do that. And although I've had some questions, I haven't had as many questions as I'd really like. So I just like to say that if you'd like to call the station while the show is going on, you can do so between 5 and 6. Originally I said 5:45 to 6, but now I'm saying that if you're watching it live, you can call anytime, and I'd be happy to interrupt the show to answer a question. Now, a lot of people are telling me, friends of mine and otherwise, that it's hard for them to call because they're not really watching television and they don't know what the show is necessarily until they see it on YouTube. For those people, I would say that just call between 5 and 6. You know, wherever you happen to be, feel free to call. You don't have to be watching the show. Then the question doesn't necessarily have to be about the show that's on for that evening. It could be on anything. So, you know, that's that's a possible way of getting more questions. You can email me. You know, I haven't had too many emails. But if you want to email me, that's, you know, a great way of doing it, alansitaly@gmail.com. It could be a question about the show that you see. It could be a question about any aspect of Italy. I've been all over Europe, really, so I mean, I'm not as much of an expert on the other places, but I have been to Spain and France and England and the Netherlands and, let's see, Austria, Switzerland. So, you know, those are possibilities also. I may not be an expert, but I could certainly guide you in that sense. I've been to those places. So, you know, if you could try to do that, that would be great. If you don't, you know, I'll have to deal with that, and I just appreciate everybody watching. One last thing before we get on with tonight's show. I'd like to thank my friend Rick, who was with me during the last show when we did his area of Alto Lazio. That was a fun show, and a lot of people have told me that that was very nice, and I just want you to know that he will be on with me again in a few weeks when we do a couple of shows. We're going to do a show in a couple of weeks on Michelangelo in Florence. Rick is a sculptor, so he will be coming on and using his expertise as somebody who has actually sculpted marble, so that'll be fun. And a few weeks later, we're going to do a show on food that you get in Italy. And Rick is also, being a jack of all trades and a master of all, he will be doing a little demonstration on how to cook pasta. So that'll be some of the things to look forward to in the future. Tonight, we're going to an area in northern Italy which I love. This is an idyllic area. I call it paradise in many ways. When you come here, it just gives you this very tranquil atmosphere of beauty and peace and relaxation. And nothing illustrates that more than this first video that I have, which is a video that Laura took from the window of our hotel, the Hotel Villa Cipressi in Varenna on Lake Como, which you'll see more of in a few minutes. But right now, I just want to show you this video. And in addition to looking at the magnificent sights, listen very carefully to the background. So here we go with that. Okay. All right, so I hope you were able to hear the birds in the background. I'm going to ask my engineer, Alan. Yes, could you hear the birds in the background? Yeah. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, well, this is a scene from the Hotel Villa Cipressi, looking to the west along Lake Como. This is a view that Laura took. This is sunset, on Lake Como. And that previous video was a scene where it's the same view, but you heard the birds in the background. When I think of Lake Como, that's what I think of. I think of looking at a beautiful view like this with birds chirping in the background. People come to Lake Como to relax. You know, there's some history on Lake Como, but there isn't too much, you know, famous art by some of the masters. There isn't an especially large number of churches. The museums are scarce. There are a few historical things that we'll cover in a few minutes, but for the most part, people come here to relax. And this is the greatest place that I've ever been to relax. So if you're interested in just coming to a place where you could kind of slow down your pulse, this is certainly the place. Lake Como was first inhabited by people 10,000 years ago, who obviously saw it for what it was, which was just a beautiful, tranquil place. It was occupied by the Romans during their time. Pliny the Elder lived here, and it has been inhabited ever since. During the 18th and 19th century, people built magnificent villas, which we'll be seeing some of in a few minutes. So this is a place to go to relax. And I'd like to first begin by showing you exactly where Lake Como is. So that's a little too much magnification there. Okay, so let's go all the way to the north. Let's start with Florence, and we're going north now along A1, which is the major route that takes you to the north. And we come to Milan. There's Milan right over here. And if you look a little further north, you come to Lake Como. There's the town of Como at the very southern end of the western branch. There's Bellagio, Varenna, and Menaggio, some of the towns along the lake. Lecco on the eastern shore, the eastern part of the lake. And we're going to be starting our tour right here in Varenna. So this is where it's located. Here's a better map of Italy. I found this online, and I think this is really a little better because you could actually see a little more about where Lake Como is in relation to other places. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so here's Milan. Lake Como, you can't see it over here, but it's right over here. And you can see that Switzerland just kind of pokes in right at this point. And you have France over here to the west. And if you look a little more over here to the northeast, there's Austria and Slovenia and Croatia. So Lake Como is kind of tucked right in here into the Alps. and that's what makes it such a beautiful location. Very close to Switzerland. We'll be actually dipping into Switzerland a little later in the show as well. So we're going to be starting, let me go back to this one for just a moment. Back to Lake Como. We're going to be starting in the town of Varenna. There are many towns you could stay when you go to Lake Como. I like Varenna, and you'll see why in a few minutes. It is a very peaceful, relaxing town, untouristy. There's another map of Lake Como. I forgot about this one, but this is not a bad map either. This is a very good map of Lake Como, because you could actually see Varenna right here in the middle, mid-lake. That's considered mid-lake. Here's Menaggio, and here's some of the other towns along there. Here's Switzerland right out here, and there's Lugano, Switzerland. Okay, but let's begin with this view. This is a view on a ferry boat. Now, I've never arrived in Varenna on a ferry. I've gone there either by train from Milan, or I've gone to Varenna by driving across the Alps, which is an amazing experience. But I've never actually approached Varenna from a ferry boat. You can do that by taking the train from Milan to the town of Como and then taking a ferry boat. But I thought this would be a very nice way of looking at the town of Varenna. There it is, tucked into, it's right over here, along this ridge here, tucked in to the mountain. And let's see a little better view. There you can see exactly what the town looks like. It's a beautiful town, dominated right there in the middle with the church steeple, with mountains behind it. Sometimes those mountains are snow-capped, but in this case they're not, because it's a warm season. But that's what the town looks like as you're approaching, coming from the lake. There's the town itself. It's a very beautiful town. And this is, I've stayed in Varenna, and I've also stayed in Bellagio, and this is my favorite town because it's a little more untouristy, very picturesque, very charming, and you'll see why in just a few minutes. So we're approaching the boat dock now, and if you look off slightly to the south, this is what you see. But when you land at the dock, you get off at the dock, and this is what the waterfront looks like. This is one of the lakefront bars along there. This is Bar Il Molo, which is my favorite bar, right along the lake. And one of my friends over there that we see every time we go, we haven't given him a name. I guess that's a goose. Not sure. I'm not really up on my mallard cases, but there's Laura and I sitting at an outdoor table, and I put this in because I wanted to show what it's like having a glass of wine or a cappuccino along Lake Como with that backdrop, and you can see that there is a snow-capped mountain behind us. This is a little later in the season. This is late April, and in late April you still have some snow from the previous winter. But this is what Lake Como looks like when you're sitting at the lakeside bar named Il Molo. This is the bar. You can see the name of it right there. I'm standing kind of right in the middle of all the tables. No one is there at the moment. That's me with the owner of the restaurant. His name is Simone, and he's a very charming young man who sits at everybody's table. You can see he's also extremely good looking. He sits at everybody's table if you want him to sit, and he'll have a little conversation with you and talk about where you come from and, you know, the fact that he's been to New York a few times. So he's a very nice young man, and we see him when we eat at his very nice restaurant. This is a restaurant that's kind of informal, but you can have dinner there. We've had pizza, and we usually have salads, so that's like a salad place, but we have had regular meals there, and it's a lovely place with great cappuccino. This is not a view from Bar Il Molo. This is a view from the restaurant Vecchia Varenna, which is along Lake Como as well. And that's what it looks like having dinner there. Laura and I are kind of backed off so you could just see what the table looks like with the 2 glasses of wine and the menu on the side with the carafe of wine over there on the left. And this is the view you get. This is looking west towards Bellagio. And this is having a lovely dinner along Lake Como. This is the ferry boat dock where you would embark and disembark going all around the lake. Most people just kind of park their car and spend the next 2 or 3 or 4 days, as long as they're there, just traveling around on a ferry boat. And that's very relaxing. There's another view of the dockside in the town of Varenna. You can see that it's very peaceful, very quiet, beautiful views. This is a view of the town of Varenna from the south, and we took this from the window of our hotel. So this is what we saw when we looked out to the north. There's the town with the mountains in the background, the mountains of Switzerland, and this is what it looks like, a similar view, but with night falling. Okay, this is the center of the town of Varenna. You can see those very extraordinary trees. I kept meaning to kind of look up the names of those trees, but I forgot to do that. But I've never seen trees like that, neither has Laura. But this is what the center of town looks like. And you can see the cars parked there. People, as I say, park their cars and then just travel around. This is going down the main street, coming from that piazza that I just showed you, headed towards our hotel, which is on the right side. All right, these are some of the streets. Now, so Varenna is kind of the main part of Varenna is kind of up on a plateau and goes down to the waterfront, and that's what it looks like headed down towards the waterfront. This is one of the side streets. These are called contrade, that's the plural of contrada, which are the steps that lead from the top to the bottom. And these are what the streets look like. It's amazing. It's an amazing town, very charming. And people, actually live in those houses on the left and the right. And there are some also beautiful hotels. This is another street in Varenna. This is a beautiful street, as you could see, with the ivy-covered arch and the ivy all over the walls there. This is a beautiful, very beautiful picture. There's another view of another archway. Very pretty streets. Another side street in Varenna. Once you get off the main drag, the streets are very narrow. This is very beautiful. There's like one arch after another there, so this is a really nice picture. This is another view of the waterfront. Walking along the waterfront, you can see the boats there, and a little in the background off to the left are some restaurants, including Bar Il Molo. This is a view of Lake Como from the town of Varenna. And you can see that if this doesn't slow your pulse down after visiting some of the great museums of Florence and Venice, then nothing will. And this is a picture of one of the villas on Lake Como. This is on the right fork in the town of Varenna, and that yellow building in the background up on that hill is the Hotel Villa Cipressi, where Laura and I have stayed 3 times. And that is a really beautiful hotel, and I thought I would start with this to show you pictures of the hotel, because this is a really nice view of it from that vantage point. Oh, here's another. Okay, this is a video of the hotel grounds. You got to see this. This is really very amazing. I'm going to stop it right here. Yeah. Oh, I'll keep going because we're going to go back then. That's Menaggio over there. And then I'm going to stop it over here, right over here. Okay. The reason I'm stopping it here is because my commentary gives some misinformation that I wanted to stop before I actually gave that misinformation. That little hill you see there in the front that's Bellagio. I call it something else because when we first took this video, it was the first few minutes that we were actually on Lake Como in the town of Varenna, staring at this lake, and I didn't know where anything was. But that's Bellagio in the distance. I had originally called it Cadenabia, which is not true. Cadenabia is further down the coast here. Cadenabia is actually over here. So I didn't know that, and I thought that was Cadenabia. But that's what Bellagio looks like, and that's a nice video of what the grounds look like. This is a view of Lake Como looking to the south from our hotel window. So when we looked outside, in fact, our bed was positioned in such a way that we could look out the window and see this view. It's really unbelievable. And the spot that you're looking at now on the left side with those tall trees with that villa behind it is the Villa Monastero, which is one of the villas that were built during the 19th century. And that's where I took that original picture of the hotel, how the hotel looked up on the hill. So this is kind of looking in the opposite direction from that. This is going into the town of Varenna, and the hotel is over there on the left side with the flags. This is what it's like coming into town. No traffic. So I just kind of pull in there, make a U-turn, let off Laura with the luggage, and then I continue going down that street to park the car. Oh, I have to tell you this, I suppose. This is not a funny story, but it's a story I'll always remember. I drop Laura off right at that door over there. She goes in, and a bellhop helps her in with the luggage, and she starts a conversation with some people there. And I go off to park the car, and I come to the spot. It's about, I would say, about an eighth of a mile down the road. On the right side is where all the cars park. I went down that street, and I said, oh my goodness, there's a million parking spots. So I actually, pull over to the right, and there were so many parking spots, I didn't have to do a parallel park. So I just pulled over to the side, and my tire scraped the sidewalk, as I've done, a million times. Very light scraping as I do that. And as I'm doing that, there's a fellow walking his dog, and he's looking at the car, and we hear this screeching sound. And he just puts his hand to his head and goes, oh my, mamma mia, or one of, something like that. And his dog starts barking. And I say, what the heck was that? I get out of the car, and there was a nail sticking out of the sidewalk. I don't know why. And it actually sliced the tire in half. So I got to Lake Como, finally, after driving across the Alps, down those narrow, winding roads, and I got to this point, and my tire was slashed in half. So I'll never forget that. Whenever I think of this street, I think of going down and that happening. So the hotel is right behind this wall over here, and that's the entrance to the hotel on the right side. And that's what the patio of the hotel looks like. You could see there are some tables in the background, and those tables are set up for dinner sometimes when the weather's nice, and you could have dinner right there on the patio looking at this view. This is actually a view of a table on that patio. We are seated there having a meal, and there's a glass of wine, and we're looking out towards Bellagio on Lake Como, and that's an amazing view. Okay, so let's continue. These are some more pictures of the grounds of the hotel, Hotel Villa Cipressi, and you can see how beautiful it is with the steps going up and all the foliage around. And there are some more pictures along Lake Como, right along the lake. We're walking now. Some more. These are more spectacular pictures than you could see in that video that we saw a few minutes ago. There's me in my favorite pose when I'm on the lake. That's me kind of sitting there and staring out at the lake, about to fall asleep probably. That's another view of the gardens of the Hotel Villa Cipressi. Pretty nice hotel. Not overly expensive either. This is just a very nice, this is from from a fountain looking out at Bellagio in the distance. This is a view from the window of the hotel looking north towards Switzerland. And back to Varenna. We're now walking towards the boat dock because I'm going to take you on a boat ride now. We're looking at this walkway. This is the walkway that you take to get to the boat dock. And it's a beautiful walkway that everybody uses because it's just wonderful to walk along the lake. I've seen people literally walking back and forth along this because it's just such a beautiful view. This is another view of what the walkway looks like, looking back towards the town, away from the boat dock. And this is where we are winding up. We're winding up at that dock, about to get on that ferry boat. And this is what the ferry boat station looks like. It's very pretty. And this is what the ferry boat will look like. You could take your car on there, and this ferry boat will take you across the lake to the other side. Sometimes we do that when we're going to be driving on the other side. But for the most part, we just take these ferry boats and just relax. And we wind up at the town of Menaggio. And this is a video showing you the town of Menaggio. Right on. Right on. Very nice. Lakefront.
Yeah.
Beautiful town. Back to the square. Okay, so that's what Menaggio looks like. Here are some more pictures of it. Menaggio is a very colorful town. Again, not too touristy, but, you know, it caters to children. You can see right here that there are all those shops there on the left side with gifts favoring children. There's a child playing there in the front. There's a picture of Laura kind of enjoying the outdoor cafe there. Okay, now we're back on the ferry and we're headed to the next town that we're going to be visiting. That's the town of Bellagio, off in the distance. As you can see, Bellagio is a larger town than Varenna. You can see that it's more sprawling, and in that sense, it's bigger. It doesn't go up quite as high, I don't think, going up into the mountains, but it's a very beautiful town, as you will see in the next few pictures. And this is what it looks like approaching Bellagio. There's a better picture of the town, nestled into the side of the mountain there, right on the water. Very beautiful town. You can see the snow-capped mountains off in the distance. And this is a beautiful picture. This is the picture that's on Laura's desktop that she stares at every day. I've had it there as well. It's a beautiful picture of Bellagio with the Alps in the background. Unbelievable, huh? This is really an amazing picture, as is the next one as well. That's a little more distant view of what that looks like. And it's just an amazing town. And when you get to the boat dock, which is approaching us, coming up very soon, this is what the waterfront looks like in Bellagio. And underneath those trees are restaurants, and you can imagine the feeling of sitting in one of those restaurants, sipping a glass of wine or a cappuccino, kind of staring at that view. And there's a better view of the waterfront with some of the boats along the side there. That's a ferry boat on the right side. And this is what it looks like when the ferry actually approaches the dock. And you could see the Mercedes-Benz insignia on there on the front hood as that car is about to get off. It could be our car. I think they gave us a Mercedes once. And the reason I'm showing this is not so much to show Laura and I hugging, but to show you what the waterfront looks like. Once you get off the boat, this is the sight you see. You see those beautiful trees on the left side, and a hotel. I forgot the name of that hotel. It's the Hotel Firenze. I'm not sure, but that's what the dock looks like, with restaurants along the side. And now we're walking around the town of Bellagio, and it's very similar to the town of Varenna in that they have contrade, which are the steps rather, that go off from the top of the town down to the dock. And you can see how beautiful that is, with the flowers along the left and the right, and shops along the street. This is another street in Bellagio. This is at the top of the hill, headed towards one of the hotels that we stayed in when we were in Bellagio. This is a really good view of what the steps look like. And I must tell you that if you have any difficulty with steps, this is not the place to go, because this is grueling. To go from the bottom level to the top level requires a walk, I would say, of about at least 100 steps. So this is difficult to do. And there are restaurants along the waterfront, but some of the restaurants along these streets are really very beautiful. This is another street in Bellagio going towards a restaurant, which we're not going to actually see because we never got into the restaurant that we were headed to because it was closed. Okay, this is a view looking down one of those steps, and the restaurant is on the right side. And this is the next picture you will see will be the actual restaurant. Look at that terrace. It's just unbelievable. I'm not sure if that's a B&B or just somebody's house, but imagine living there. This is one of our favorite restaurants in Bellagio, Trattoria San Giacomo. And there's my friend David with Randy, and I'm doing some sort of explaining the sightseeing aspects. You know, you can't keep me down. Once you get me in one of these places, I'm constantly pointing and describing things. This is a very, very good restaurant that had some of the best pasta I've ever eaten. I just had a bowl of spaghetti in this place, and it was just incredible. Some more steps going up towards the top of Bellagio. And this is the hotel we had when we were in Bellagio. This is an amazing hotel also. You know, I like the hotel in Varenna, as I indicated, but this is the other hotel we stayed in. And this is the view from the balcony. Imagine that. Come out on your balcony in the morning, you see this. Or you see this if you look the other way. Unbelievable. Or you see this looking straight ahead. And that town down at the bottom there is the town of Pescalo. It's a fishing town, as you can see the boats in the water over there. And this is a really pretty town right on the lake, very untouristy. I myself have never been in this town, but you know, if I haven't been there, then you know that not too many tourists have. So this is really kind of a workaday kind of town. And there's yet another view of Lake Como. That's the eastern branch of Lake Como, looking towards the town of oh boy, I forgot the name of that town. Looking towards Lecco, but the town over there on the left is not Lecco, but I just cannot remember that town. I used to remember it, and then I turned 63, and now I just don't remember the names of towns anymore. There's one other view from the balcony looking to the south. And now we're back at Bellagio. And now we're driving along the eastern bank of Lake Como from the town of Varenna, headed towards another town. And this town's going to blow you away when you see it. We're riding on the road that takes you to this town. You could get to this town by boat, but this is driving to the town. And this is the town right here. This is the town of Bellano. And there's the Alps, snow-covered in the background, the town in the front. This is an extraordinarily beautiful town. Again, very untouristy. One of the things that Laura and I like to do, no matter where we are, is to go to very untouristy type places. We just, we're tourists ourselves. I don't consider myself anything but a tourist. I'm just a regular person who goes there for a few days, eats in the touristy restaurants, and goes to all the touristy locations. But I like to be away from the tourists sometimes, the crowd of the tourists, and this is a place where you could do that. The town of Bellano. And this is what it looks like, and you could see that it's kind of deserted. And there are those trees again off to the left, and again, I don't know the names of that type of tree, but they're amazing. And this is the main drag in Bellano, where you don't see any cars. This is another view of it, looking towards the north, with the mountains in the background, the boats over there on the right side. There's another view, looking towards Varenna. And I love to come to this town because it is just a very peaceful place to spend the day. Okay. Now, this is a video, what it's like taking a ferry boat ride. And the ferry boat ride that we're taking is away from Varenna, headed towards the town of Cadenabia. And I'll stop talking so you can hear the audio part. Backwards at Varenna from the water. Beautiful town. And then a little further down the coast to where we're staying. And that's actually not where we're staying. That's actually a town called Fiumalata, which is right next to where we're staying. We're headed in that direction. The boat is kind of going to swing out to the south now and head in that direction. Bellagio, with the island in front of it. So we are going to only a few more seconds of that. So that's what taking a ferry boat ride on Lake Como looks like, and that's another view of the lake. Okay. Oh, actually, we're not going to Cadenabia. What we're going to is Bellagio. This is the town of Bellagio, and this is one of the villas. I'm taking you now to a few of the villas that were built by unbelievably wealthy people to spend time along the lake vacationing. This is called the Villa Serbelloni, and it's right at the very, northern edge of the town of Bellagio, and you can see that this is just a beautiful villa. I assume more than one person stayed here. Look at that place. It's now a hotel where I've never stayed because I think it's like $1,000 a night. That's a little steep for me. That would consume my entire Lake Como budget. But that's a beautiful hotel. You'll see the inside of this hotel in just a moment. But this was somebody's house at one point. And these were the gardens of the hotel, the gardens of the villa. Imagine that. This is one view of the hotel. I guess I don't have too many views of it. That's a picture of Laura and I on the steps. Oh, that's it. Okay, well, that's the Villa Serbelloni. This is another villa on the lake. This is the Villa Monastero, which we were a little while ago when we took that picture of our hotel to the north. So this is another villa along the lake in the town of Varenna. This again was somebody's house, and those were the gardens that they created. You know, those of us who are lucky enough to own homes have little gardens, but nothing like, my goodness, look at this. You would need a full staff to take care of this. This is looking towards the north. and that's looking towards the south. And it is utterly delightful sitting on one of those benches over there on the right side. Another view. I just thought of the name of that town. So you see, even 63-year-olds eventually know the name of the town. That's the town of Fiumellata. Look at that. Again, I don't know what that's called, but if there are any scientists out there. Okay, now we're coming to another villa now. This is the Villa Carlotta. And the villa, there's a few little houses here along this is the villa over here on the right side. And this is the Villa Carlotta. We're approaching the front of the villa from the lake. This is between the towns of Cadenabbia and Tremezzo on the west branch of Lago di Como. That's the back of the villa, away from the water. Look at that. Look at that place. And these are some of the gardens there. Look at this. This is just incredible. This is mid-April. So that's what it looks like on Lake Como in mid-April, which is pretty far north. So it's really hard to believe that, you know, everything is in bloom. There's a view of two of our friends, Linda and Bruce, who accompanied us on that trip we took in 2008, I believe. There's Bruce up on the, majestically standing up on those steps. And there's a view of Bellagio from the Villa Carlotta in the background. Just spectacular views everywhere you look. You just cannot take a bad picture on Lake Como. This is the Villa Balbianello, which is in the town of Leno along Lake Como, along the western branch. This was built by a fellow by the name of Guido Manzoni, who was an explorer and a climber of Mount Everest. And he was a very wealthy man who spent his time donating to charities and hiking all over the world. And this is the villa that he built right along Lake Como at the town of Leno. These are the grounds of his house. Many of the artifacts that he brought back from his various expeditions to Africa and Asia are located in this house. That's what it's like walking around his grounds, looking out at the town in the back. That's the town of Leno in the distance on the left, just right there in the center. It's a pretty town where we had lunch after we left the villa. These are his grounds, Mr. Manzoni. I guess he used to sit under that umbrella and stare out at that incredible view. That's what his villa looks like from a distance. Oh, okay. This is the last town that we're going to be looking at. This is the town of Como. This is from whence the lake gets its name. And this is what the main piazza by the waterfront looks like. Okay, so that's what the town of Como looks like, and this is what the piazza, the main piazza in Como looks like. Yet another video. These videos are good because they kind of give you the feeling of what it's like actually standing there and looking around instead of those. This is the Piazza del Duomo. Nothing really special. It's actually a nice town, though. There are not many tourists, which is very, very good, because I have had it with tourists. Although that looks like a little tour group over there on the left. That's pretty much it. I say some disparaging words about those tourists over there on the left, so we could pass up on that. Okay, now, let's see. We may not have time. We're going to try to do this, but, okay, so here we are in Lake Como. And one of the things we like doing when we're on Lake Como is to take a drive into Switzerland. So when we're on this first trip, we're going to be going into the mountains over here with our goal of going to the town right over here, which is not labeled, but it's the town of St. Moritz, which is 10,000 feet up. It's one of the highest, excuse me, it's one of the highest towns in all of Switzerland, 10,000 feet up. And then we're going to, after that, go to Lugano, Switzerland, which is right over here, much lower down. But that's the next two sequence of pictures. This is the road that leads north from the town of Varenna along Lake Como into Switzerland. So we're now in Switzerland, and we're climbing gradually. Lake Como is about 1,000 feet up, and St. Moritz is 10,000 feet up. So in the next 30 miles or so, we're going to be rising 9,000 feet. And as you could see, we're starting to get into a snowy area. And this is what happens on this trip. We start driving to the north, rising as we go. Look at this beautiful scenery in Switzerland. And I'm saying to Laura, well, those, that snow is much too high up. We're not going to get to that point. That's probably higher than the actual town. There's another view going along the side of the lake. Excuse me, not the lake. I don't think that's Lake Como anymore. I think we've now entered into just kind of a river in Switzerland. And we start to get a little too close for comfort to the snow. But they still look like they're pretty high up, so I'm pretty confident now as I ride through Switzerland. And now it's starting to get a little hairy because I'm saying, the snow is getting kind of close. And it looks like it's actually snowing in the background. And indeed, the next picture will show you that we wound up in a snowstorm. This is in late April. As we approach St. Moritz, Switzerland, we're only about 10 kilometers from St. Moritz at this point, and look what it looks like. This is what we're in, and you can't see the snow falling because it was intermittent at this point, but snow started falling and ice started to, come about on the left and right side of the road, and I started to get very nervous. So what did I do? At this point, I found a spot on the road, and I made a U-turn and went backwards. So this is what we're doing now. We're now going back down the mountain. And I just said, geez, if this continues, I don't think I could do this. So we decided to turn around and do it again some other time. So we got to about, I would say, 8,000 feet, and we turned around and went back down the mountain. And this is, okay, so we're now back down the mountain, and we decide to go to Lugano on another trip. And this is what Lugano, Switzerland looks like. Lugano is a much more peaceful kind of place without too much snow as you would have in St. Moritz. This is what Lugano looks like. Right on Lake Lugano. Okay, this is a video that I don't really have time right now to do, but it doesn't give you too much more than what I'm showing you now. But this is Lugano, Switzerland, walking around the streets and walking along the waterfront. Right, I'm sort of running out of time. Okay. And this is along the waterfront, and I think I could pretty much finish up Lake Como at this point. Okay, so this is just walking along Lugano, back to Varenna. Okay, so this is sunset on Varenna, and the sun is setting even more. And finally, the sun is gone. And we are finished with our Lake Como. Whoops. What's going on now? Okay, wait a minute. All right, I did something bad here. Let me go over to this. Okay. So it was a pleasure taking you around Lake Como. And good night, and I hope to see you again next week.